Hi, I'm Anne Corbin. I'm the Mind Body Spirit Mentor, and my podcast is the Mind Body Spirit Connection. That airs every Friday. I'd like to invite you to give it a try if you haven't yet. The links are in the print below. And the reason that I'm making this little PowerPoint video is that I've been talking recently about the central channel and belly breathing and the importance of that. And this is just a little bit of visual backup for those people who don't completely like to rely on their imaginations. So here comes the PowerPoint. So I'm the Mind Body Spirit Mentor, and my topic is entitled The Energy Codes. It's what I love talking about. And here is a very short video just to explain belly breathing and the central channel with a little bit of video. Belly breathing is one of the foundational practices which we need to engage in order to use our breath properly. So here's a diagram of the upper part of a human torso. It's pretty self-explanatory, really. There you see the lungs and the diaphragm, which, as I've mentioned, is a dome-shaped muscle at the base of the lungs, and it flattens as the lungs are properly filled with air. The trouble is, we often don't fill them properly. It's important to fill the lower lobes of the lungs. And the best and easiest, most direct way to do this is to breathe through your nose, because that way the air will automatically go down the trachea, all the way through the little branches, down here, causing the diaphragm to flatten. There is therefore that much more space available to use, because if we fill the top parts of our lungs, which we do when we breathe in and out through the mouth, then the air kind of thinks, well, why bother to go right down the bottom? Children, incidentally, use the belly breathing method automatically. It's something we tend to grow out of for some reason as we get older. We tend to use shallow breaths, which engages the fight or flight reflex. So you might say, why does that matter? Well, I'm not going to go into detail on this presentation, but I just want to mention that within our brain are essentially two separate halves: the conscious mind, with which we're all familiar, and the subconscious mind, which is responsible for everything that happens in the body that we don't consciously think about. There's a metaphoric trapdoor represented by these two arrows between the conscious and the subconscious in all sorts of different areas. I will speak much more about this later on, maybe in courses that I produce, but I just want to say that the subconscious is where fight or flight resides. It's a reflex. Anything that is called a reflex is something over which we don't have conscious control. It could be compared very much with an ingrained habit, something that's practiced over and over and over until it's something that happens on autopilot. So back to the belly breathing diagram. When the diaphragm flattens, the lungs expand to the maximum. The abdomen pushes outwards because there's less room down there now. And this is one of the reasons why Victorian ladies were prone to fainting, because those corsets that they had to wear constricted their abdomen so ridiculously much that they could only breathe, could not flatten the abdomen, because there was nowhere for the expansion to expand. So when air goes straight down to the bottom, to these lower lobes, it's oxygenated much better because the blood supply down here is better. So there's more hemoglobin available, more oxyhemoglobin is formed, and this is then carried throughout the body quite quickly by the blood. There is also the calming effect of the parasympathetic nerve system because the majority of the receptors are actually down here. And when we're only breathing in the top part of the lungs, those nerve receptors simply don't get stimulated. And of course, we have better voice control because when our lungs are completely filled, we can take a lot longer to cause noise to happen using that breath that's down in the lungs. What happens is it's pushed up the trachea, it causes the voice box or the larynx to vibrate, and that's what speech is. Now onto the central channel. This is a representation of the body again, and those 4 spots are what we call anchor points. The first one up here is the third eye, 6th chakra. It's within your head, behind the eyes. The next one is the throat chakra. This one in the center is the heart, and this one here is the root chakra. It's the area which I talk about when I discuss Mula Bandha. Mula Bandha means root lock, and it's gets that name, it's a Sanskrit name. It comes from Muladhara, which is the name of the root chakra, chakra number 1, which is down there at the base of the spine. All these chakras have Sanskrit names, which you absolutely don't need to know, and I won't bother mentioning them now. This is another way of representing the chakras within the body, of which there are 7. Then there are many, many other minor chakras in places like the hands. You can see they are gently shaded yellow. And we're also surrounded by a couple of chakras, plus there's one below our bodies and a couple above our heads. But speaking about the 7 within the body, which are the main ones that I just want to mention briefly at this stage, there is the root chakra down here. Next one is the Sacral Chakra, which is known as the wisdom center. This one is the solar plexus, that's the power center. This is the heart, which is the center of divine love, and it's so strong it has its own energy field surrounding it, which can be measured. The 5th chakra is the pale blue one here. That's the throat chakra, and that is the chakra that governs communication. And also, that's communication inwards and outwards. It's how well you hear what's communicated to you. This one here is the third eye, the 6th chakra, which in many people is seriously underused. It needs to be activated, and it's not an easy thing to do. And then finally, at the very, very top of the head is the 7th chakra or crown chakra. Another way of representing the energy field surrounding us is this circular diagram. Imagine it as being a cross-section through a donut or a pumpkin or something of that nature. That gives you the idea, the 3-dimensionality of it. So in this diagram, you can see that the 2 sides are equal. I'm trying to move the slide on. This is a representation of a regular toric field, which is the way things are meant to be, but quite frankly, they're not for the majority of people. There's the diagram of the regular energy flow, where it's even 360 degrees around the body, And this is what happens. If there's a wobble in the central channel, then you can clearly see that the donut is irregularly shaped. And the reason is that central channel breathing involves breathing energy down through this channel and then pulling it back up again through the earth. When it comes down, it's very, very high frequency. When we pull it up again, it's of a strength which we can actually use as human beings. If there are no obstructions in the central channel, that energy pushes up evenly and sprays out around us evenly, 365 degrees. When there are blockages, which are also known as subconscious interference, limiting beliefs, there's probably a couple of other names for them, they interfere with the flow of energy, which causes a distortion in the energy field surrounding the individual, and then the individual has a distorted view of the world. So you'll see there's a note there that there's another way to see the effect of gunk in the energy fields. Yes, there is. We're not going to cover that now. Let me just say that the point of learning central channel breathing with the anchor points is that of clearing all that interference, but it's essential to appreciate Mula Bandha, belly breathing, and the central channel in order to activate those procedures. And then once the central channel is cleared, this is what we're aiming for: Taurus man with dynamic and undistorted energy flow. So I hope that was helpful. There will be other mini videos on the subject. I don't want to stick too much information in each one. So thank you for watching.